let me tell you a story. I was in my final year of my undergrad, and I was on this really tight timeline where I had a teacher's aide position, but they said, if you can finish your undergrad by the time that the next school year starts, we'll put you in as a teacher. So basically, I was only going to do like 12 credit hours in the summer. But if I doubled that, I had to pay my university extra money to take all these. So I took 24 credit hours in this one summer so that I could finish my undergrad, so that I could be a teacher in the fall. Great. Of those classes, most of them were like just, I took like an English class, a sociology class. Those were pretty easy, but I was missing credits in the arts. Fine, lovely, love that for me. I took a photography class, which I adored. I did all these things, but the one class that absolutely kicked my butt and made me hate myself was a drawing class. And I'll tell you why. Because on that first assignment, it was like we were just supposed to draw 3 things. And if I can find a picture, I'll find a picture and I'll like add this as an overlay or whatever. But the assignment was just draw 3 things to see where we're at. And then next week we'll go over different techniques and all, rules of thirds and all these other beautiful things that I was like so hungry to do. But again, it was like one of many classes I needed to do. But that first night, oh my God, I got like, first of all, I spent all the money on all of the things. Like we had to buy this one kit, but I was like, I want all of the charcoal, all of the pencils. I wanted all of the things because ADHD and creativity, and I have to have it in every color. I spent easily 10, 20 hours on this drawing because I knew if I could see it in my head, even if I don't have the technique or whatever, I'm going to keep working at this thing. I set up a spot in my dad's basement. I had lights, and the amount of detail that I put into this first assignment was unreal. Here is a picture of that drawing. It's like a 16 by 20, so it's very big. And yeah, it's super grainy here, but it was a big, very detailed picture. Back to the conversation. So what happened? I went back to class the next week, like super proud of myself. I'm like, oh my God, I worked my butt off for this. This is so great. And he said, oh my gosh, okay, all right. So I see I'm going to have to set the bar really high for you. You're not a beginner. That class kicked my ass because that first assignment, I overdid it. I overthought it. I gave way too much time, and I set the bar for myself way too high. And that is the class that I should have loved the most, but I hated the most because I locked myself into this template and this expectation that only I put on myself. But then my teacher saw it and I had to live up to that. Tell me this relates to creating content, right? Because my brain feels the same way when I get anxious about starting a new project, or I have an idea, this vision that has to be complete. It has to be this way. And I lock myself in. Please tell me you can relate. Tell me about it.
100%. So from a neurodivergent standpoint, right, we know all the elements that make something good, right? Yeah. They're using this charcoal and this paper and this lighting and these techniques, right? So in order for us to create the thing that we want to create, we know that our standard is up here.
Yeah.
I've never had a neurotypical response where, it's good enough. It's always, this has to be pro top level gold standard of everything. Therefore, if I'm getting into a hobby, if I'm going to make a simple frame, now I need planers and joiners and table saws and drill presses and nail guns, right? I don't just get glue and clamp stuff together. So it's the same in any hobby that I have. I go in and I say, all right, where are the people that are my inspirations? And I see them and they're doing it at a really high standard. I look at Doc, right? And I say, how is he doing this? All right, well, he's got a couple of cameras, and how does he have those hooked in? Well, hubs. And then he's got the hubs and the microphones and different lights and grids and background lights. And so I must need that. Instead of just saying, hey, Matt, do you know how to use Ecamm? And just start there, right?
Yeah.
I've never been able to do something simply. I have an idealized version, and I have to get there. And if I don't, then I just keep working. The problem is I don't put out any of that beginner work to learn from it. I have to go from 0 to perfect, and you're only ever going to see perfect. And that ruins it, because then you put out something really good because you spent all this time and people expect that from you. And you're like, You have
Or
no
you
idea
think people
how much that
expect it.
took.
Oh, yeah.
You think people expect it, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's something that I bump into a lot. You are not alone in that
not alone.
whatsoever.
I'm not alone.
Not alone.
I mean, even with this recording here, you and I, we're just right before this, we're just having this organic conversation about like, this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, I know how to use Ecamm. So if anybody's watching this, I can set up super complex, super animated. There's so many different things that I can do with video production that I know how to do, that I have experience in doing, and I can make things look so stinking fancy. And what did I do in this Ecamm setup right now? All I did was, here's my camera. I added Matt's camera. So he's right next to me or he's right below me so that my wide content is optimized. And the main thing right now is the sound of our voices and the message that we have to share. And so
That's it.
We don't have to overthink some of these things. If you've got something that you've got to share to the world, or if you're like, oh, I want to showcase this, or I've been thinking about this, or this might help my community in some way, it doesn't have to be overproduced. You could just hit record with what you got.
And this has been the blessing and the curse of Ecamm. It gives you so much potential to create anything that you think up. But you have to scale back and say, what is the message that I'm trying to get across? And do I need fancy widgets and logos to make that happen? Here's the thing in the photography industry. Everybody thinks when they're starting their photography business that they need the perfect logo for their company. I don't have a single client that's ever come to me and said, you know, the reason I hired you, your logo is off the charts. That logo is everything, dude. I have no idea how you use your camera, but the logo.
They don't care what gear you have. They want to see your work.
None.
The only thing that they might want to like, I don't know what the word is, but like check out is like, okay, like if they go into your studio and it's some sketchy basement, that's a little scary. But they want to see your work and they want to see how you are as the customer client relationship. They want to know that they can be heard. They want some level of professionalism, but they don't care if you're using this lens or that lens for the most part.
No, they're resonating with the style and your voice, right? Voice as an artist or voice as a podcaster or voice as whatever it is that you do. Someone will resonate with what it is that you're putting out there, not the how, right? They might get into that at some point, but people are going to listen to you if you have something to say. That's why, audio podcasts were a thing. Now that they're video, we're adding another layer of complexity on top of that because we're thinking more about what people are seeing than what it is that we're actually saying.
Right.
So I always scale it back to what was it like when I was podcasting with just audio and people were resonating with that? Stick with that. Adding in all the cameras and everything is great, but it's not something to obsess over. Make sure that your audience is getting exactly what you want, and then start to dress it up from there once you have that solid base. That's the way that I look at it. All this is extra.
I agree. It is extra. And a lot of things will come up and I'll be like, oh, I'll have an idea on this, especially if I'm under like a time constraint and I get inspiration somewhere. But I have to check myself and say, okay, is this a nice, not necessary? Okay, let's keep it simple.
Again, it's the Brandon Washington's on season and off season.
Yeah.
While you're creating the content in the on season, keep it as it is.
Yeah.
Play with stuff in the off season and then introduce that the next time you come around and start putting things out again. Learn in the off season, produce and put out in the on season. And that has been a real shift in my overall thinking.
Me too.